those are all weak goals. As noble and lofty as they sound, they do absolutely nothing for that part of your brain that is responsible for getting you into action. Hey everyone, this is Michael Dare again, and if you're in this place or on this channel, today we're talking about unfinished goals. I sometimes have so many projects or things to do that it just happens. You have some things that aren't finished, some things that are left up in the air, and you may wonder, how do you deal with unfinished goals? Let me take a stab at this and see if this rings a bell. You get a day off, and then instead of relaxing, which you would like to do, you just get hit out of the blue with the thought of something that was left unfinished. Maybe a honeydew item, or something that you have to do around the house, or something that is a setup for another goal that you're looking to accomplish, but it requires you to do something else to get there. And then the minute you take a second to think about how you're going to do this one thing, just it opens the floodgates, and by the time you write it down on a piece of paper, you have 10 things that you haven't finished, and you have so many projects that have been started but haven't been finished. Another note, let me ask you this other question. How many of you have read books and haven't finished them? Yes, I'm in the same boat. Whenever you're a doer, mover, or shaker, it's not as clean or easy to stay on top of. In a perfect world, we would love to say, we start something and then we don't move on to the other thing until we finish. We would love to have this clean, polished, sequential order to our life, but when you're doing, moving, and shaking, things aren't that simple. At times, your task, your duties, they leapfrog and overlap, and you just have to make sense of it all. All right. So, how do you deal with unfinished goals? Well, the first thing I would say is, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, right? And this is not a license for you to live a mediocre life or be, as they call, a slacker, but this is just someone who's been there and knows that you can still have a successful life even if you have unfinished goals. It's just a matter of making a commitment to get back to that place of strategy, right? So you take a moment and you make a decision to never give up getting back to the drawing board. That's the key right there. So first of all, don't be so hard on yourself. Second of all, commit to yourself that you will always get back to the drawing board. If you need to write it on your fridge or put it in your calendar or put it in your phone, write yourself a note to ensure that you always have a time where you get back to the drawing board. You'll be more successful than you think. So beyond that, what do you do with your goals that are unfinished, right? Because if you finish them, you would be happy. And if they were easy to do, they would be done because you would have started, and regardless of what interrupted you, you would have gotten back to it because it was that important and easy to do. But we all know that goals aren't that easy to accomplish, right? And that's why we set them, to challenge ourselves. But what I would do if I were you is your unfinished goals, take a look at them from a different perspective. Like I just said, the goals that you have still left unfinished, they're unfinished because of a reason. They're probably too difficult to attain. And one of the things you could do immediately is break that goal up into two goals, or a smaller, more attainable goal that you can set as an action step that you'll achieve quicker. And what that does is it has an effect of building momentum and building confidence in your life. So your mindset becomes stronger because you realize you did something, you accomplished something. This goal that you had before that was a looming monster, revealing and reminding you of your inability, now becomes an attainable goal that you can just crush. So the next thing that I would consider is the way a goal should be made. And hopefully you'll remember this, because if you don't remember this now, you're probably doomed to make what I call weak goals. Weak goals are goals that go a little like this. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better mother or father. I want to do good things. Those are all weak goals. As noble and lofty as they sound, they do absolutely nothing for that part of your brain that is responsible for getting you into action. And the reason why is because there's no definite date, and there's no definite quantity. Every goal has to have a date and a quantity. I'll give you an example. If a person says, I want to get apples, how powerful of a goal is that? It's not very powerful, because you don't know how many apples, you don't know when they want the apples by. So really, your mind doesn't have a clear picture to pursue. So your mind is going to be fuzzy and unmotivated, and that's just the way it is. But when you say, now, I want to get 3 apples by 4 p.m. today. Now what does that do? Absolutely. It triggers the brain to look at the time remaining, and if it's 1 o'clock, if it's 11 a.m., you have some work to do, because you have to get 3 apples in 4 to 5 hours. Don't quote me on the math. No, 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours to get 3 apples. So what that does is it gives you a definite deadline by which you have to achieve that specific quantity. 3 apples by 3 p.m. Was it? 3 p.m. So you have to get those apples in that time. And what that also does is it gives you a measuring stick, a way to measure whether you were successful or unsuccessful. If you have 2 apples by 3 p.m., were you successful? No. If you have 4 apples by 3 p.m., were you successful? And then some. Yes. So when you have a goal, you have to set a time and a date. So now when we go back to those unfinished goals, you have an arsenal of power to attack it with this time around. Now you set a date and you set a quantity. If it's to finish a book, you may not be able to finish the entire book, but if you can set a date, this weekend, Saturday at 3 p.m., I will have finished up to chapter 5 of this book, 5 out of 10 chapters, and then set a goal for the next 5 chapters. That's a more powerful way to set goals, and the way that triggers your mind to roll and move into action. So how do you deal with your unfinished goals? First, don't be too hard on yourself. Second, break the goal up into smaller goals that probably was the reason why you didn't finish it in the first place. And third of all, make sure your goal has a date and a quantity, to make sure this time around your mind will chase after it and actually accomplish it. So hope this one helps you. Keep changing the world, keep setting goals, because goal setting is the key to achievement. So until next time, God bless, and see you in the next video.